So in today's video, I'm going to teach you a lesson that you definitely didn't learn at school, and that's how to deal with your negative emotions. Now, everyone has negative emotions, but to stand out and to get better and improve yourself, you really got to know how to deal with your negative emotions. Most people end up dealing with emotions through self-destructive behaviors like eating too much, drinking, doing drugs, those sorts of activities. And it's just a way to suppress and get rid of the emotion and not have to think about it. But eventually that emotion is going to catch up to you and you've got to deal with it. And so I've created a 3-step framework that you can use to journal to figure out how to deal with your negative emotions. Now, the whole bunch of negative emotions, I've tried to label about 6 of them. So you have things like stress, anger, fear, anxiety, shame, and sadness. There's a whole lot of more negative emotions, but these are kind of 6 that just came off the top of my head. There's a whole lot of energy attached to these emotions, and you've got to be able to control that energy to get things done, move your life forward, and not let the energy hold you back. So how do you deal with this energy and process this information that's causing these emotions? And so I created a 3-step process to deal with these emotions, which I've gotten from ancient philosophies. So the first thing is naming your emotion. Most people don't even start with this process of naming how they're actually feeling. So if you're anxious, write it down, name that you're anxious. If you're angry, name that feeling and the energy attached to that feeling. Then you've got to figure out what thoughts you're having when you're feeling this emotion. So potentially you've got thoughts that are creating the emotion as well. So if you're feeling angry, maybe it's because you have a thought about someone else that's causing you to feel this anger. If you're feeling anxious, maybe you've got a feeling about the future that you're a bit scared or nervous of. If you're feeling fearful, potentially you've had a situation in the past that's hurt you and you're scared of that happening again. You've got to figure out what are all the thoughts you're having when you're feeling the emotion. Because the only way that the emotion actually occurs is through having thoughts. Your thoughts occur before you feel the emotion, so you've got to figure out what thoughts you're having in that moment that are making you feel this way. And the next step is changing those thoughts. You want to write down the thoughts you're having, and you've got to figure out potential new thoughts that could remove the emotion. So if you're feeling anxious, potentially you've got to think about what things are you in control of, what things can you focus on improving or controlling in the situation to make you feel less anxious. So I applied this to a situation where I was doing work experience. I named the emotion of how I was feeling beforehand, which was anxious. And the thoughts that I was having around when I was feeling this way was I didn't feel prepared to go to the placement. I also had a high expectation for myself. I wanted to do really well. Then I also thought I needed to do everything perfectly because I wanted to impress the people there. Potentially there's job opportunities. I felt like there was different things I needed to try and do to impress other people. And then I didn't want to do anything wrong as well. The customers are paying to have a service, and I didn't want to do anything wrong because they're paying and I'm not getting paid. So I want to try and avoid any mistakes. However, these thoughts are creating a certain feeling that I didn't want. So in order to change the feeling, I got to think of new thoughts that I could have. So instead of saying I don't feel prepared, a new thought I had was I've been preparing for this for years, and I've got to transfer that preparedness into this situation. And the next one, instead of having high expectations for myself, I said, I expect not to be good at the start, but in the long term, I expect to have massive improvements and I expect to be good. And that's only after lots of practice. Michael Jordan was once an average basketball player, but through lots of practice, he got really good. He had high expectations for himself in the long term, but in the short term, he knew he had to practice to get there. Same thing for me. I've just got to practice to get good. So I have to have high expectations for myself in the long term, but in the short term, expect I'm going to be bad and I'm only going to get better through practice. So doing these sorts of exercises to create new thoughts kind of started to remove that anxiety. For the next one, instead of thinking I need to do everything perfect because I want to impress other people, I said, I want to set a standard for myself. I'm going to try and impress myself rather than trying to impress others. I want to improve by a couple % each day, get better, try new things, learn new things, and just keep improving and set a standard for myself each day and trying to improve it. And for the last one, I don't want to do anything wrong. Instead of saying that, I realized that making mistakes allows you to correct your course and improve and get to the final destination quicker. But in order to do that, you've got to make sure you take lessons from the mistakes. There's no point in making mistakes and making the mistake again. You've got to figure out what the mistake was, why you made it, what you can do better next time. It's okay to do things wrong as long as you realize that what you did wrong has a lesson within it. And you got to learn that lesson, and so every mistake has a lesson. Now, I hope you found this video valuable, because I definitely don't teach you this stuff at school to deal with your negative emotions. You got to learn ancient philosophies to figure this sort of stuff out. So I hope you apply it. Help me deal with my negative emotions when going to university. You've got to name the emotion you're feeling, figure out what thoughts are currently causing you to have that feeling, then change those thoughts, figure out new thoughts you can have, and get rid of that negative emotion. You can clear all the obstacles in your way to get where you want to go. I hope you enjoy this video. Hope you found it valuable. If you did, please subscribe, and I'll see you again in the next video.